Oh, yeah.
Is she there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Miss Cunningham? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Murray has... Hold on, let me close the door.
Conflict, problem.
We have conflict.
Scheduling issues.
Yeah, okay, so essentially this next coming week we have our maths, language, and science exams on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And therefore we'd be missing the review day on Tuesday, so we're just wondering like what we should do in terms of like...
Well, watch the class recording.
Wednesday we posted that.
I have noticed that Stanford seems to be posting them more quickly these days, probably because they know it's the end of the year and that y'all need these recordings. So let's just be optimistic that they'll post it really quickly. And so all three of you will be absent then?
Yeah.
Okay. And make sure you check your, let's see. I just want to make sure that you're not in jeopardy. Have any of you missed already 4 classes? Because if you miss a 5th, you're okay. I think I'll go ahead and make the attendance page visible for y'all and let you count up. Just make sure that you haven't, that you're not putting yourself in jeopardy for losing credit. Let's see.
1, 2, 5. I also might not be here, but I will probably be late because our final schedule is 9 to 11 is my first final. So I don't know how quickly I'll get up here. I'll try. But then I have another one like 1 to 3 or something.
Okay. Would it be better for, here's an option. We could not have class from 10 to 11 and have it that evening or a different evening. That sounds awful. Okay. Well, I just hate that y'all
every night.
I just hate that y'all will miss the review day for the final exam. That's all. So.
Can we do it Monday?
Oh yeah, that's
Monday evening?
I didn't. During this period on Monday.
No, I have a weightlifting meet on Monday.
And from 10 to 11?
No, at night.
At night?
Well, why don't we do it in like
Why don't we do
day, like this period on Monday?
What do we have this period during Monday?
Would that work for those of you who are present?
This is our announcement period,
Would
so it doesn't
you
work.
probably like send Miss Wakeman an email just because we have to get out at 9:45?
Oh yeah, I would have to email her.
For what?
Wait, what day are we talking about?
Well, let's make sure it works out with everyone else who's not in the room right now.
Like tomorrow? I mean, next Monday? Like
Yeah, because Monday's our review day, so it's a normal schedule.
Okay. Maybe we can switch it to Monday.
No.
EF. Oh, sorry. Funny.
Good morning, everybody.
Also.
Wow.
Hi.
No enthusiasm there.
We're dead.
There we go. All right. Come alive. Come alive. Folks, I am a little bittersweet, sad that this is our last class in which we'll be learning new content.
Oh no.
Oh no. Wow. Wow. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite sculptors of all time, Antony Gormley, British genius, for lack of a better word. But first, we have a couple things to talk about. It's come to my attention that a number of you will not be able to come to class on Tuesday because of conflicts with your schedules at your schools. So let's take a vote on whether you would it even be possible for you to attend class on Monday in the same time slot. So for us here in Texas, it's from 10 to 11 in the morning. If this is something that you could do, let's see a show of hands if it's possible.
Could it be like half an hour earlier
Yeah.
by chance?
No.
Unfortunately, it can't.
Not for us.
Not for us, at least. Lauren, would that work for you? That would. Manlius Pebble?
We're checking if there's any other classes at this time.
Okay,
'Cause-
smart. Yeah. It may, I wonder if anyone at your classes or at your school is taking advanced computer programming.
Yeah, people are.
Okay, so that might be a conflict. But y'all could Skype in from your laptops, possibly. Maybe. Are Joan and Julia there today?
Most likely, but they're here's Joan. Here's Julia.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Devin, were you able to get an answer on that?
Yeah, we do have a class at that time.
Okay.
Like, there's computer, whatever. What was it?
Computer programming or whatever it is.
Right. Okay. Well, we would be sacrificing 4 people to accommodate 4 people, so I think we're breaking even. We'll go ahead and leave the class on Tuesday. Those of you who won't be here, I hope you can watch the recording before taking the final exam. Okay. So scores from the Magdalena Abakanowicz quiz ranged from 50 to 100. Saw a lot of 80s and 90s, really good scores overall. There were a couple questions that were missed. Most of them were just purely fact-based, so it could have just been something you didn't catch in the reading. Let's review those questions now. The first one was, why did Magdalena use fabric for her abacons? Yes, sorry.
Said all of the above.
It is, in fact, all of the above. So she was a textile major in college. She was worried about storing these sculptures in her tiny, tiny apartment that she shared with her husband. And even if she had wanted to make sculptures out of stone and marble, those materials were not available in communist Poland. So the correct answer is D, all of the above. Her figurative sculptures may be divided into 4 main groups, which include all of the following except. You already answered one. Yeah, Lauren.
I believe it was heads.
Actually, heads is one of her 4 main groups. Agora is what? We've heard this word before. How does agora relate to her work? Chloe.
That's the is that the title of the piece of all the people walking without the heads and the veins and the open back that we've looked at?
Yes, correct. Where's that piece located?
Chicago.
Excellent. So agora is just the title of one sculpture, but it's not a series of sculptures where she repeat the same theme or the same subject over and over again. Okay, number 7. Magdalena's experiences as a teenager include all of the following. Another bad question. Why does no one ever email me? This is a terrible question. All right, that's fine. But let's see. All of the following except. What's wrong with this question? Someone tell me. Well, friends is spelled wrong. So the teacher should be shot for that typo. What else is wrong with this question?
All the above.
It's not an accept question.
It's not an accept question. So if you miss this question, you will be given points back. All of the above are experiences she had as a teenager. So it's not an accept question. Okay, folks, I did want to take a minute before we discuss talking Antony Gormley to point out that at this point, actually starting last week with Magdalena Abakanowicz, we were learning about contemporary art. A very rough or bare-boned definition of contemporary art is art produced since roughly the 1950s. And you'll hear art historians disagreeing on when modern art stops and contemporary art begins. Some people place it in the 1960s. Some art historians go as late as the 1970s or even beyond. We're going to go ahead and stick with the 1950s for the purposes of this course. However, I would really like to see if anyone could impress me by telling me what the difference is between modern art and contemporary art other than just dates.
Their names are different.
The names are different. Yes, that's true. Does anyone else have another idea?
I can Google it.
You can Google it. Okay, yes you can. Yeah.
It's because modern art is made with like real clothing and like stuff like that. Like it's just different materials that weren't usually used. And I mean, although contemporary art was made with, it can be made with materials like that. Like it's just we're used to those. I don't even know.
Actually, you are very close to a very good answer.
It's just a terrible point.
You are flirting with the correct answer there.
You meant to flirt.
You
Is this audio?
Words are scary.
Oh. Hold on a second, class.
Wow, we got score.
We got a chord. We got a chord.
If I get you to download my mixtape, Inspire.
I really want to plug this in.
It's cookies to me.
Is it not there?
Oh, can you find a space for that? Hang tight, class.
Oh no, there's a note.
No.
Do you have a USB?
It's alright.
What does it say?
We'll just hold the thing over it like we've been doing. Okay, we're going to watch a quick video on the difference between modern and contemporary art, and then afterwards I'm going to ask for a volunteer to summarize what you learned from the video. Meanwhile, while I'm getting this video going, Manlius Pebble, can the front row people switch with the back row people today? Thank you so much.
Welcome to Smart Talk, where we talk about art, history, and anything in between. Today we're going to be talking about modern art versus contemporary art. There's a common misconception that modern art is contemporary art. It's understandable since both modern and contemporary mean current, now, or the present. But in the art world, the two are as different as apples and oranges. Modern art isn't modern at all, but actually pretty old. It roughly started during the Industrial Revolution around the 1860s. In this time, artists wanted to stop making the same art that had been done for hundreds of years and started experimenting with abstractions. With the popularization of photography, artists didn't see the point in trying to copy reality anymore and used their paints more freely. With modern art came many isms, like Impressionism, Symbolism, Cubism, Expressionism, and even Futurism. One ism in particular, Fauvism, with one of its biggest painters being Henri Matisse, were very expressive with color. The Fauves, French for the wild beasts, used bold, bright colors to paint because they thought using color this way reflected an artist's feelings about a subject. Although modern art liked experimentation, it experimented with art mediums like drawing, painting, and sculpture. Contemporary art, which is art made from the 1970s to the present, experimented not only with new mediums like performance art, video art, land art, installation art, and even virtual art. But contemporary art also focused more on social issues rather than just making new aesthetics. Now that you know a bit more on the difference between modern and contemporary art, go on and enjoy your new smarts.
Woo! Okay. That was a lot of information that came at you quickly. Who can summarize what the difference is between modern art and contemporary art, at least according to the video? Yeah, Jessica.
It seemed like modern art was just trying to be different from other art in the past, and they're much more abstracted, whereas contemporary art, like, they still brought in lots of more mediums, but they were focused on more, like, social issues and things like that rather than just trying to do something new.
Excellent summary. Lauren, did you have something to add?
Also from the video, I thought that contemporary art focused on, instead of just changing the new different aspects about, for instance, sculpting and painting, they would create whole new ones such as gardening or virtual art, etc.
Yeah, so we have the introduction of lots of new media, things that we haven't seen being used in art before in the contemporary era. So here's my summary page. In general, modern artists made art about art. They were concerned with challenging the art establishment and expanding the definition for what art can be. We see a lot of abstraction, and what technological invention prompted artists to move away from realistic depictions of the things around them? Yeah, Spencer. Photography. So if a camera can take a picture of it, why do I need to spend a year painting it? I could be painting other things that are more imaginative or expressive, and so that's what modern artists do. With the contemporary period, we see artists continuing to expand the definition for what art can be, even coming up with new media like computer art or video art. But they're also more attuned and more interested in exploring social, economic, religious, and political ideas, more so than in any previous era. So the focus is no longer just on challenging the art establishment. Thankfully, the modern artists already did that for us. So when your grandmother invites you to go to the Modern Art Museum with her, you know that you'll be seeing artwork at that museum from what time period? Yeah, Chloe.
Like starting from like the 1860s until I guess now, but.
Not quite until now. From roughly the 1860s to about
1950s.
1950. Now, if your grandfather invites you to go to the Contemporary Art Museum, you know that you'll be seeing artwork from about 1950 to today. So those two words actually mean very different things in the art world. In your everyday language, you may use them interchangeably, but in the art world, they mean very different things. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about another contemporary artist, Antony Gormley, and the first question on the table is, how did Gormley become a sculptor? Yeah, Joan.
Well, at first he just went to an art school and studied painting, and then he didn't know what to do with his life, and he went to India, and he kept painting until one day he ran out of ideas what to paint, and then just started sculpting.
Excellent. Yes, he did go to India, and it was in India that he starts, well, he'd been painting all his life, really. He was very interested in art, but he runs out of ideas of things to paint or draw and decides to become a sculptor. One thing you said, Joan, was not accurate. What did he study for his undergraduate degree? Yeah.
Carpentry?
No, carpentry was high school. We're looking at college. Julia.
Art
Next
history,
one's on you.
archaeology, and anthropology.
Excellent. Okay, and you're going to see, I hope, that that kind of academic background that he has comes into play in his work, very much so. Okay, let's move on. Oh, Lord, this is a terrible slide. That's fine. I'm going to read this to you. This is a description of the type of meditation he studied while he was in India. You can just listen to me, or you can follow along if you're a visual person. And I'm going to describe the type of meditation he was doing, which is called, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Vipassana. Vipassana is a Pali word which means bare attention, the discipline of being and attending to being without any imposition. You start with anapana, which is awareness of breathing. Breathing happens without your conscious control, but you can become conscious of it. As you increase your concentration on your breath will become shallower and your concentration will increase. This is a typo. The breath is a wonderful bridge between the bodily processes and your consciousness. You start by feeling the warm air leaving the body and the cool air entering it on the upper lip, which becomes a highly charged center of attention. You can transfer that attention to the top of the head and then, as if it were a searchlight, go through the body attending to whatever sensation is there. In Pali, it's called Vedana, feelings. You're seeing, this is a really important sentence, you're seeing what is happening within the space of the body. Vipassana gave me a key to the dimensionless space of the internal body. That is the basis of everything that I've done since then. This is a quote from Antony Gormley describing his process of meditation. For the next minute, I want you all to follow along. We're going to be a little vulnerable right now. I want you to close your eyes, and for the next minute, sit in silence and focus only on your breathing. Begin now. Okay, welcome back. I hope you didn't fall asleep just then. Can anyone describe what you became aware of as you were sitting there? Yeah, Maddie.
The noises around me, like outside, there's a lot of wind.
Okay, so your senses became heightened. You started paying attention to the things you were hearing. Anyone else? Yeah, Hannah.
My anxieties.
Your anxieties, okay. Started to think about all the things you have to do today. all the things you're going to avoid doing today, like college applications. I noticed that I became very aware of my body. I started feeling the chair beneath me, noticing how much I was twitching with my fingers. And I think this is what Antony Gormley is trying to express with his artwork. So much of our thoughts are spent on things around us, external stimuli, but we don't spend a lot of time thinking about our bodies, except for maybe when we're hungry or when we're worried about our appearance. But most of the day, we go about and our existence is right here, like in our heads, right? You don't think about all the rest of you. And that's what he's really trying to bring attention to in his work. So let's keep this in mind as we look at some of his artworks. And today, I'm really going to put the burden on you as a group to try to find some meaning in his artworks. We're going to work together as a group to try to understand some of these artworks that you saw in the PDF document that you read. So let's begin with this piece titled Bed, which he made when he was still a student at the Slade School in London. He was now working on his master's degree. He had returned from India. And I'm going to open with some questions here to get us thinking about this piece. Okay, first question to the group. How is this bed different from a normal bed? Leslie.
Well,
Whoop.
normally in your bed you don't like sink in like that. Unless it's Tempur-Pedic.
Okay, normally in your bed you wouldn't sink in like that.
It wouldn't be like noticeable, like you're like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we've got, what would you describe the things right there?
Tiles?
No, like the spaces that you're describing.
Imprints?
Imprints. Okay, we've got two imprints of a body that shouldn't be there unless there was a
Tempur-Pedic bed.
Tempur-Pedic mattress or a body on the bed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good start. What else is different about this bed from another bed? Maddie's about to fall off her chair. Yes.
It's made of bread.
It's made of bread. Excellent observation.
It's got mold on it. If you sleep in mold, I think you're unhealthy and you should probably move.
Oh my god, it's bread?
Yes, Victoria.
Did you read the reading? Okay, so it's made of bread. There are impressions.
Skipped over that part.
What else? Joan, tell us something else.
It doesn't have pillow and bed sheets.
Okay.
Bread sheets.
Excellent. Okay, so much of being a good analyzer of artworks is not noticing what's there, but what's not there. And Joan has just done an excellent job of that, noticing that pillows and bed sheets are missing. Okay, Hannah, what else?
In the kind of blurb underneath the picture in the document, it says that he ate the individual pieces of bread so that they would like form the human figure.
Yes.
That was unique.
Okay, so that leads to my next question. How did he make the sculpture? And you're saying he ate the bread. So what part of the sculpture did he eat?
The imprinted part?
The imprinted part, which is what?
His body.
His body.
He ate his body.
He ate his body in bread.
Yeah.
Okay. Question for the group. Whose bed is this? Whose bed is this? There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. We're just kind of probing around here trying to make sense of this piece.
Devin's got his hand up.
Okay, Devin, whose bed is this?
Well, I just said something here at Manling's Pebble, and they were all like, "Oh, you should say that" or whatever. So I was just saying how it's like like obviously the connection between like bread and then the body of Christ in a way, and then like making up a body and then eating the body. So I don't know.
Excellent.
There was like a Christian connection.
Okay, Devin, that is an excellent point. In the Bible, bread is often a symbol of what? Devin. The body.
Yeah.
Yeah, the body. What other? We know that Gormley was raised according to what faith? Delaney.
Wasn't he Catholic? Like every Sunday they would go to Mass.
Yes, he was Catholic. Okay, so a Christian here. And let's see. What Christian ritual involves bread? Hannah.
Taking communion.
Yeah, can you describe that maybe a little more for us?
So that's when. So sorry, I'm Jewish. My mom's Christian, so I've only done it like twice before my dad was like, "Oh, you're Jewish." So it's essentially where you get a piece of bread and you dip it in wine, and the bread represents something, and the body, the wine's the blood, and the heavenly ghost. What's that? I don't know.
Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit, you don't have that in communion.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So there definitely seem to be some religious associations he's made with the piece. Why do you think his body appears twice in the bed? Or is this his body twice? Jessica.
Okay, I definitely think like it's his body, but it almost looks like the front and back of his body. Like it kind of reminds me of like, you know, like the Princess and the Pea, how there's like the pea in the bottom. It almost looks like he's like smashed by two mattresses. And then,
that sounds rather violent.
I thought it too,
actually.
Okay, but I agree with you. So what does that add to your understanding of the piece? If you see it as what, he got squished and then we opened it back up, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Like squished and then. But I don't even feel like it as being squished. Like to me, it just feels like almost more comfortable. Like, you know, when you sleep with like lots of layers on you?
Yes.
Like that's how I kind of view it, not as like being smashed, but almost like more comforting.
Okay. All right. Excellent. This is all very helpful. We are getting closer, I think, to some understanding. Devin.
It's like an early form of like all of his molds.
Yes.
Like you could see it, like if someone was just laying there and then he like stacked the bread all the way around them and then just cut it out to the center like he did with all of his like human figures.
Excellent. We can definitely see how this piece is at the root of his artistic career. Folks, what was the kind of bread he used? And why might that be significant or add meaning to this piece? Julia.
He used rejected factory bread.
Yes.
Rejected bread.
Rejected bread. Okay.
I don't know. From bakeries, not factories.
What else do we know about the bread he used? What was the name of the bread? Delaney. Oh, sorry.
It was called Mother's Pride.
Mother's Pride. Okay. White bread, Mother's Pride. What's in the name, Mother's Pride? Could that add some meaning to this piece for us?
Bread is like
Okay, let me try this. What happens in beds?
People sleep.
People sleep. And Chloe?
Okay, but before when you were saying, like, why do you think there's two of him? Like, I was going to say maybe it's a spouse or another person in bed next to him.
It could be. Can you defend that interpretation?
maybe it's like king size bed and there's just, because instead of it being like him smushed in between the two, it's just like people lay next to each other or.
Sure, absolutely. Lauren.
I thought that too when I saw it first, because the figure on the right seemed to be a little bit more shaped like a woman than the left.
Interesting. Has anyone actually paid attention to his body position in the bed? Yes.
Could he be dead, maybe? Because his
Why?
arms look like they're like maybe in like a mummified.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
The
that's
arms are crossed, folks. So I actually think Jessica's interpretation of it maybe being a little more violent is very plausible. I mean, it does look like he could be dead. And this bed without pillows and sheets could certainly seem more like a coffin, even. Plus, what is happening to the bread? And it's very visible in this picture.
It's rotting.
It's rotting and decaying, which implies death. But at the same time, how is this piece indicative of life?
Bread of life.
Do you want to elaborate?
Like Jesus.
Okay. Bread of life, like Jesus. Jesus coming back to life. Hannah?
I'm kind of going off of Loren's comment. Beds, kind of a sexual aspect of that. Maybe like, I don't know, that kind of life, like creating life.
Absolutely. Beds are a place of conception of life for many people. So here we have a bed that is where life is conceived. It's made out of bread, which suggests eating, which happens every day, a lot. But we also have bread that's rotting. So this piece seems to be very much about the cycle of life. And, you know, as a bed, it's a place where you begin and end each day, but it also can be a place where you begin and end your life. How else does this piece speak to the concept of time? Yeah, Hannah.
Well, it's apparent that some pieces of bread are a little moldy and less desirable and older than a lot of other pieces of bread, so you kind of have that contrast between like young and old.
Excellent. So the bread is rotting. It visually shows us that it's, you know, time has passed. Also the fact that, what does this remind you of, this layering process that he's done? Does it look like anything in nature?
Tree.
What else has this kind of layered look to it? Lauren?
To me, it sort of looks like sandstone. We have a lot of that on our beach, and some of it's still being created. And if you look closer at sandstone, you can see there are layers, and oftentimes they're sort of staggered.
Excellent. So it kind of looks like stratified rock, which forms over, you know, thousands or millions of years. So even though this piece suggests one time frame, which is someone's life, you know, let's say 80, 90 years, it also suggests eternal time, or at least very, very large amounts of time beyond our reasoning. I put this picture up because I think it further emphasizes the tomb aspect. The way he's put it in this glass case, it almost looks like a tomb. Okay, I'd like you to take 5 minutes and go to Gormley's website. This particular link, www.anthonygormley.com/sculpture/chronology. That will pull up a page that has images of all the sculptures he's ever made. And I would like you to look at his figurative sculptures. His sculptures only of people, you can ignore the other ones, and come up with a list of features that they have in common. Yes, Amanda.
I was just gonna say at the university that I'm going to, there's a gourmet piece. They have a gourmet in like the main plaza.
Awesome. What school are you going to?
University of Limerick in Ireland.
Awesome. Very cool.
My sister's going there to study abroad.
Well, you will know all about it then. Okay, so we're creating a list of features that his figurative sculptures have in common.
Blocky.
I'm just going to write it down.
Okay. I didn't realize I didn't mean something. No, I think I'm going to Did I what? Every time I try to click
Every time I try to click it, it just
it
shows
goes
up
blank.
a blank screen. So I can't really see.
Thank you, Country Day.
Like.
Well, work with
like
what you got. Work with what you got.
I'm having that problem too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought Country Day categorized it as
That's
porn.
That's frustrating. Hopefully you can just skim the images. I know it's hard to see, but hopefully just by skimming you can get a sense of some similarities. You could also do a Google image search, Antony Gormley, and just look at those images.
Oh yeah, that might be fair.
What kind of phone do you have?
Make a list.
I am. I'm just wondering.
Okay, one more minute and then we're going to regroup and discuss features his figurative works have in common. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and regroup. I would love to hear some of your ideas. Let's work together to generate a list of features that characterize the Gormley style. Yeah, Delaney.
For a lot of them, they're either very vertical or very horizontal. And even the ones, they might be going in two directions, but they seem very straight. They aren't like weird angles.
His body, you mean?
Yeah, like the bodies are like either straight up or they're like this, or like they're like this with legs going up like this. They aren't like bending or moving in weird ways.
I agree. So could we say that they're very symmetrical poses? And maybe simple poses, but not necessarily natural poses. Like they don't look comfortable. They don't look comfortable. Okay, excellent observation. Hannah, what else? Oh, wait, I promised Victoria she could go next.
Well, like the general shape of it, of a lot of his sculptures are the same, and like the pose of them with the legs out to like shoulder width, sort of, and their arms like slightly extended, like not touching their sides. And it's like almost like a really structured and like stayed position. It's like not really flexible. It's not really meant to show any movement or anything. It's just meant to show the form and like the human aspect of it instead of like movement.
Yeah, so they're not indicative of like a casual movement. They look very frozen and stiff. What else can we add, Chloe?
I was gonna say that most of the pieces are freestanding pieces. There aren't like anything holding them up. Like the figures of the sculptures of the figures just standing there don't have a support besides the legs. Yeah.
Excellent. Freestanding. Do you mean like no pedestal also?
Yeah, like no pedestal. And I remember like at the beginning of the year, he showed us the sculpture of the elephant that was like just being held up by the trunk. And like, I mean, kind of similar to that, but it's just the feet. There isn't anything helping it stand.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Hannah. And then
I was gonna add that the figures are very linear in like their angles, kind of just like their basic composition, but they're very linear pieces.
Excellent. I agree. Spencer?
Mine is kind of like what you just said, but each piece is made up of like smaller, like the materials, they're kind of separate little pieces to make up the form. So like some of them have like little blocks of wood that make it, and then like wires that make the shape.
Okay, so you're talking about some of his more recent works.
Yes.
Which I would add, over time, his work has gotten more and more abstract. So some of the pieces you were looking at that look like, you know, clouds of bubbles or cubes are even more abstract than his early work. Anything else we can add to our list? What about faces? Yeah, Jessica.
I was gonna say, like, a lot of the figures also don't have arms, or they're just like really close to the body. And then like also like there's no facial features or like any really details of the body except for kind of the basic outline, the basic shape.
Excellent. Excellent. So facial features have kind of been eroded. Sometimes he'll include holes for the eyes, nose, mouth, or ears, but otherwise usually they're solid. What about the number of figures that he uses in his sculptures? Jessica.
I mean, I think it's changed over time because like the ones he looked at were like just individuals, but then he did do like the more collective pieces, how the one we looked at, the domain field, and then also how he had everyone make the little clay figures with the two eyes. So
yes,
it seems like he either has like very little or like hundreds.
I agree. Okay, so usually like one or two or a lot, a very large number. Excellent job, folks. I also wanted to point it out, this is one of his, for lack of a better word, typical sculptures, at least from his earlier career in the 90s. And I want you to see the weld lines. This is where he's taken a welder to join the different pieces together. Now, he could very easily buff away those lines so that you don't see them, but he has chosen to leave them. And we're going to talk about why in a second. But my first question to this group is, how much do you think this body weighs?
200 pounds.
You've got a number, 200 pounds. A lot, Leslie says. Okay, I agree.
I'm going to say not a lot.
Maybe it's hollow.
I think it's hollow.
Okay, well, it is hollow, but it is also still, I think this piece is made out of lead, so it is still very heavy. Imagine if your body felt like that.
Felt hollow?
Now, do you see a conflict between a body made of lead and how this person is standing? Delaney, you're nodding your head. What's the conflict here?
Like he's standing in like perfect form and standing up straight, but like if your body's heavy, like even if you're just tired and like you feel heavy, like you're kind of like slouched and very like ugh.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a conflict here. He's made this very, very heavy body, but it's almost defying gravity, that it's standing up so erect. Does this sculpture remind you of anything we've studied before in this class? And if so, why? Joan, what does this sculpture remind you of from something we've studied in this class?
Oh, I have one. I forgot the term. The thing before they yeah, you can say it.
I was gonna say Egyptian.
Yeah, the Egyptian, the thing like they used to make sculpture like stand up straight before the contrapposto.
Okay, archaic Greek sculptures, which were called
the
starts with a K. Kurai. Which were also very closely related.
I whispered it to Spencer.
Excellent. Which were also very closely related to Egyptian sculptures. Why are we thinking of those pieces? What do they have in common here? Yeah, Delaney.
Well, didn't it say like one of his all-time favorite, or like the art that had the most impact on his life was the Ramesses sculpture?
Yes. Excellent.
So
yes.
I think like when he used to go to a lot of the British museums with his dad, they'd go after church and stuff. And so I think he saw a lot of the influence of the Greek art and the Egyptian art, but he wanted to make them more modern and more about the body itself than the person it was depicting.
Excellent. Okay. I would like someone to take an attempt or throw out some ideas for what these lines he's left on the sculpture, what they might add to the piece, what they might mean. I mean, he could have easily gotten rid of them, but he didn't. Why? Amanda.
It seems like he left them in like places, in like sort of the same places where people who used to do like drawings of figures, like back in like Italy and Rome and stuff, like Michelangelo's The Man had like those sort of the breaking up, and like it could be sort of a nod to that era where people used to divide the body like that when they were drawing it.
Excellent. Very nice association there. Devin, what was your idea?
The first thing I thought of when I saw this was just like ropes like wrapped around it, like constraining it, and that may be why it's like so like the arms are in, the legs are all the way together, like it's just held in and down together.
Interesting. So you see them, okay, kind of as ropes that are restricting the body. Very interesting. Lauren, what do you see?
When I saw this, I sort of immediately thought of the phrase, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," because it seems like at one point the body has been taken apart, and that's why there are still welt lines, because it has been put back together again. But to me, it sort of seems like those lines are the structural integrity of the piece, and it seems like that's what's allowing it to stand up as straight as it can.
Wow. Okay. I truly believe that all of you are right. I think this piece is very complex, and to try to say, oh, it means death, or oh, it means life, would be way too simple. I think this piece does suggest a struggle, like Devin has indicated with his ropes. We know that Gormley is very interested in mapping out the space inside our bodies. And so, Amanda, I think you're right as well, in that he's kind of created like this grid of the body and trying to figure out where the different pieces fit. Lauren, I also think you're right in that it's drawing attention to how fragile our bodies are, and yet somehow we're stitched and held together at the same time. So I think all of you are right. This piece is very complex. I'm not saying that all meanings are true, but I think all three of you are onto something. Let's talk about one more piece before we break. I'm going to give you all a choice. Would you like to talk about flesh, field, or domain field? All in favor of flesh, raise your hand.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Field, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Domain field, raise your hand. Okay, let's talk about domain field. Tell us how these pieces were made. Yes, Victoria.
He asked volunteers to come in, and he had plaster wrapped around their bodies and made molds of them, and then he took the molds off of their bodies and then used that general, like their shape to make like the sculptures that he has now. Like he had a welder come in and like make those shapes from like the plaster molds that he created.
Okay. How is this piece like his other works? How are these bodies like his other works? Lauren.
It's supposed to portray what the emotions are inside, or as I think I can quote him, the central nervous system, or basically your life energy. And it becomes evident when you see that there are many different people in many different poses and different shapes and sizes. And you can definitely have a lot of things to analyze.
Sure. Okay. I like that you use the word energy. Do these bodies, this is a question for the group, do these bodies seem to suggest movement or stillness? Hannah.
I would argue that they represent movement, just because each individual component, each different rod is placed at a different angle, kind of making up this figure that, like, every part of the subject and every part of the sculpture is in motion almost. So that's, yeah.
Okay. I agree. I could also see someone arguing the opposite. Amanda.
I was gonna say that it sort of seems like the movement within stillness, like sort of trying to convey the idea of even if a person is just standing there, there's still so much going on. There's still like thoughts and blood pumping and nerves and electrical signals and whatever. So I think he sort of was trying to convey the people themselves aren't doing anything like dynamic, but like within the not dynamic is a lot of like busyness and movement.
Very interesting interpretation, very complex. How might that relate to what he did in India? Your hand up?
Kind of.
Yeah, help us out.
Well, maybe like when you're focusing on your breathing, you're focusing on what's going on inside and all the things that's like happening inside of you. And this like represents all of those little things that you can focus on when you're
still. Yeah, you focus on your breathing, you feel things tingling, you can maybe hear your heart pumping. Excellent. How do you think this piece would be different if he had used wooden rods, like little wooden dowels, and glued them together? It would look just the same except made of wood, versus he's used metal. How would this piece be different if he used wood? And then my next question will be, why do we think he chose metal? Jessica.
I think that wood would make it look like a lot flimsier. Like, I feel like the metal kind of like, even though it's still like not completely filled in, so it does kind of not look as strong, I feel like the wooden rods would make it look really weak.
Okay, I agree. Anyone else have something? Go ahead.
I think using the metal gives the structure, like even though there's a lot of like chaos within like the outer perimeter of like the sculptures that he creates, I think using the metal gives like the limitation of like the life force or like the like energy or chaos that's going inside of the structure, and it kind of puts like a limit on it. And I feel like if you used wood, it would make it a lot more like warmer and not as staid and kind of like, I don't know, just like the way he created them. I just feel like there's like a limit within like his sculptures, I guess. I don't know. Don't really know where I was going with that. Just kidding.
What do you mean by limit?
Like the all of the metal rods like stop to form a distinctive shape, which is like the human figure that he made the plaster out of. And I feel like using the metal like gives it just like a distinct like barrier of like stopping the energy, I guess.
Because it's a harder material, at least. Okay. What kind of associations do we tend to make with metal? Julia.
Well, I think that since it's metal, it seems more like a magnetic field or an electric field. And if it was wood, it wouldn't have that. Because, I mean, wood comes from trees, which are, like, alive, but it doesn't really bring to mind, like, energy and stuff like metal does.
Absolutely. And also, we are so much connected to technology in our world, right? Oh, Chloe, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, like, metal is really sturdy, and we use it for a lot of, like, big structures, and it's, like, very permanent.
Excellent. Okay, so he's really trying to materialize the space in our bodies and make us aware of its physicality and its presence. What do you think it would be like walking into a room with all of these, with 290 to be exact, 290 of these figures? What would it be like? How would you make sense of all these figures? What would you see them as? Are they enemy, friends, monsters? Maddie.
I see them more as ghosts. I don't know why. They just seem like they're kind of like see-through, but they're there. Like they don't really like have any purpose to hurt anyone, but they like just are lurking around.
Absolutely. I think his work has a lot to do about memory. He's trying to make the memory of a person physical. We're about out of time, but since this is the last artist that we're going to be discussing, I wanted to ask the group, how have we come in, think about, we started with prehistoric Venus figurines carved out of stone, and now we're looking at this. Thoughts on that? Where has sculpture of the human figure come in all these years? Where have we landed? How are representations of the figure, at least as Gormley's doing them, different from anything we've seen before? That's really the question. What is he doing different than anything we've seen before? Delaney.
Well, I think like you have this movement towards where figurative sculpture used to be about portraying an actual person or just making it so you can see that exact person and what they look like, to this more metaphorical sense of what the human body is. And like you're still portraying individuals like he did with this, but I think it's a lot more metaphorical.
Absolutely. And folks, looking at pieces like Bed, we've even gotten rid of the figure, if you will. I would still argue this is a figurative sculpture, but at the same time, there's no figure in this sculpture. I mean, there is the impression or the memory of a figure, but the body itself has disappeared. Wow. We are out of time. On Tuesday, we're going to review. Your homework this weekend requires you to contribute to the class review document, and that's been posted on the eCollege page. Yes, Devin.
We can actually do Monday.
You could do Monday.
Yes.
Great. Then can everyone be in agreement that we'll meet on Monday, same time frame, to do our review?
That works.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you on Monday then. Thank you, Devin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Totally.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
So we have to pair it with Peggy.